founder Layron with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. I am here today with Nathan the Wizard. He is also one of the. Are you the main guy for Arkenforge, or is your partner? Do you have a partner? Are you there? Hello. Are you there, Nathan?
Sure I am.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just saying that I was just introducing, and I was wondering if you were the main, if you're the owner or you're the co-owner of Arkenforge.
Yeah, co-founder.
Okay, co-founder.
And
Okay.
Tech Wizard is my official title.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we invited you to Founders Day weekend. So generally, what we do is we tend to try to get the publishers, the producers, all the different elements of gaming together in the Fantasy Grounds Academy to kind of get together and share knowledge and sort of kind of talk about nerdy stuff together and do all the fun stuff. So this is going to be about the Arkenforge map making software, if you haven't heard of it. At the end of this video, I will supply links, and if we have any technical difficulties, we'll revisit and republish the video if anything goes wrong. So without further ado, I'm going to start with some simple questions, and then we'll get into Arkenforge and Fantasy Grounds. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Good.
So, can you share with us your first experience with RPGs?
Yeah, so I think my very first experience was probably 12 with a bunch of friends. We found a copy of, I think it was 3rd edition D&D, and tried to play it and just completely failed because none of us knew what we were doing. So, yeah, we skipped forward probably 5 or 6 years after that, and after seeing the community episode on D&D, there was a web series called Unforgotten Realms on the Escapist website, which I watched a lot of. And I was like, yeah, I feel like jumping into this again. So me and a friend went down to a local game store, and they were running 1st edition Pathfinder with societies, so we jumped in on that.
Yeah.
And yeah, ever since then I've been playing pretty much every week if I can.
So we're still getting that ticking sound that I was telling you about earlier, so I'm not sure what that is. Okay, so the next thing is, how would you say that, at least for you, how would Arkenforge enhance your experience for your players and yourself as a game master?
Yeah, so I'm currently running a Pathfinder 2e game for my players, and Arkenforge helps us out quite a bit, especially with the immersion of the game. So because you get your animated assets, you get audio and notes all in the one package, it's really easy when I'm playing to have access to everything I need as the GM to run it, and the players get that, super immersive experience when they're playing the games.
Yeah, speaking of that, Arkenforge is described as being a plug-and-play solution, so can you elaborate what that actually means for users?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, plug-and-play is more about the in-person functionality. So you can just plug in any TV or monitor by HDMI cable, and then it'll put out a player screen onto your other monitor there, and that gives you your fog of war, line of sight, all that sort of stuff.
Okay. And so can you kind of walk us through the process of creating an animated map using Arkenforge?
Yeah, of course. So I'll create a new one here. Let's make a nice little river scene. All right. So we give you a bunch of assets when you purchase the software. We'll make a quick fantasy one here. So let's start with some grass. So we've tried to make it pretty easy to actually use everything. So you can just click and drag to tile things out. We have some neat features here. So if we customize this, chuck some noise on, so we get that bit of like tiling that's going on there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so in the past, it was very much you have your asset there and it just looks like it's repeating, but now we've thrown in a couple little bits to make it seem a bit more random, which is very handy. Chucking some trees. Doing some static ones to start with. Let's go down. So what we can do here, we can select a bunch of different trees and essentially place them all with the single brush. So as we just click, it's going to update the tree that's placing. If we hold down Shift, we're going to get some randomization with our colors, rotation, scale, etc. And then we now use our object brush.
So can you change the order of that, the randomization, or like
yeah,
a queue?
So we can sort of click along here and we get what the next one's going to be.
Oh, I
and then
see.
if we go to our randomization options here, we can adjust, say, what the parameters are for the randomization.
Okay, pretty cool.
Yeah, so now if I click on randomized placement with our object brush, I can essentially just brush down a whole heap of trees here, and they're all going to be nice and random on the side.
Cool.
Nice. With that, we'll jump into some water next. Let's go with some already flowing water. Just start out by doing this. So you can see here already it's moving. So in Arkenforge we have what we call the effect system, where we can add a bunch of different effects to objects. This one here has a tile scroll on it, so we can change the direction of the scroll, increase the speed or decrease it. So we can have a nice little flowing river there. And then what we'll do, use our soft brush just so the edges aren't quite as sharp. And just brush along the edge here. And then as well. And then we'll just update these to both face the same direction. Maybe one. Cool. So you can see here, by having these three different sections, we have this middle part of the river that flows a lot quicker than the others.
Oh, okay.
So narratively, as you get into the middle there, you could have your players have to start making checks to make it across. That will be nice, and we'll give them a bridge. So let's do a nice log bridge. Seems good. So what we'll do is chuck it here. And then we can bend it a little bit. Cool. And we'll chuck down some posts. Some posts. Scale them up a little bit. So we can hold shift here and just scale them on the spot. And then, that gives us a nice simple battle map to play with. So that'll be the first one that we show off. And so, you can either play on this as is, or you can just take it and just export it into Fantasy Grounds. I'll put in a couple of things actually that show off the barriers and the lights and whatnot. Because otherwise we're just exporting a static image, which isn't quite as exciting. So let's just chuck down some torches. Chuck one of these on each side of the bridge, I reckon. Duplicate it, move it over to this side. Alright, throw down some fire, which will animate. Turn off randomization.
That looks pretty good.
It's a neat little fire. This fire was the very first animation that we ever created for the toolkit, so nice to see it's still in action there.
Yep.
And what we'll do, we'll head to customize and lighting. You can see it's already got light enabled. So if we go to nighttime here, it should Yep, provide some light. You can see our poles here are blocking light, which is neat.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll go to our export map. We'll select the area we want. So I think we'll probably just roll with this section here. And then we'll head to Fantasy Grounds Unity as our export type and start export.
So it
Give it a name,
does. So it does different pixels. That's great.
Yeah, so you can select the part of the map that you want, and you can set your DPI. So by default, we set it as 100, just because that's what all the stuff online says Fantasy Grounds default is. But
Yep.
if
It
you
used
are
to be
running,
50.
yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, standard Fantasy Grounds one is still at 50, but FGU is set to 100.
Yep.
Alright, so we'll copy these and we'll chuck them into Fantasy Grounds.
So you just grab the art file or the PNG or whatever it is, and then the XML.
Yeah, exactly. So it'll automatically create the XML for you. So you just need to select both and copy them.
So if you're new to Fantasy Grounds, those have to be in the same folder, and you don't want to change the names or the titles, because that affects the association.
Exactly.
And now you got to refresh if you haven't already.
Yep, that's it. And we head into the campaign folder, and we have our river here. So just click on Create Image Record. And now if we maximize this, we can see that we have our barriers on the end here. We've brought in our lighting as well.
Yep.
So these have light.
Cool.
And yeah, the grid also comes across, but it doesn't activate by default. So I think we need to change
the eyeball.
one of these.
Change the eyeball.
Ah, there we go.
Yep.
Cool. So yeah, the grid will exactly match as well.
Cool.
You can see there.
Yep.
So that's just using the standard FGU export. We do have UVTT export as well. So Fantasy Grounds brought that out about a month or two ago now. It was very recent, which was great.
Yep.
So what we'll do is we'll create a new map, and we'll build a little spaceship to show us some of our sci-fi assets.
I like that fog. That's cool.
Yeah, so once again we'll do a similar thing as we did before, where we just tile over a couple of different ones, get a nice looking background. And adjust our texture scale. Yeah, that looks nice and random.
That's really neat.
Love it. Alright, so we're going to pop these onto the terrain layer, just so that the grid's on top. And then we can start building a small ship.
Cool. A lot of rule sets, especially like I notice anything in space, they use a lot of zone fighting. So it's usually not, direct fighting like you would in D&D.
Yeah, definitely if you're doing that sort of, you're doing ship-on-ship combat, it's, more that sort of, I just have my small token, I use zones.
Yeah.
If you're playing things like Starfinder or
even
other
Alien.
things where, we did a good Alien game with it, and I find with a lot of those, especially the sci-fi systems, not Starfinder so much as a lot of things like Mothership, Alien, Traveler, that sort of thing. Like battle maps aren't really common in those. Like if you're trying to find them, you get like ship plans with a rectangle or two, but you don't really get any detail.
Correct.
And yeah, that's a large part of why we decided to do some sci-fi assets.
It's great.
Because it is very hard to get good.
Even Cyberpunk's kind of hard. It's a little better, but not much.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit problematic. The icon is here. So yeah, so when I build ships, I like to just do the outside of the hull first, and then think about the rest. Yeah.
I like that feature. That's kind of cool. You can kind of warp it.
Yeah, so any straight line you've got, we give you 3 points, so you can, do some fun circular things. So actually, maybe we'll do that for this one. We'll have a circular section there. And same on this side. Oh. Alrighty. For now, and then once again, do that, and just curve that across. And yeah, these curved lines, any wall that you place, you can automatically set your barriers on. So if we go say customize blocking, you can say block light, block vision, etc. And that will come across into Fantasy Grounds as well with all the curved lines and whatnot.
Cool.
So you don't have to worry about trying to individually match all your blocking points, which is real handy. Alright, so that gives us a pretty good shell of a small ship. What we'll do now is fill in the background. Alright, so yeah, so between this, the Deep Space pack and the Sci-Fi Essentials pack, we give you quite a lot of assets for shipbuilding. So for this one, I'll use our polygon tile. So this lets us essentially just trace around an area here. And then we can right click and we have our section here. And we can chuck you onto the terrain layer. So it's under there. Nice. You can see our walls will add shadows as well, which you can enable or disable.
Nice.
But now we're going to want to start filling out the inside of the ship. Once again, we'll head to our objects, go to engines. We have this booster. I'll put that about there. Alright. And then it's under here, or effect. It's under effects, I think. There we go. So for Sci-Fi Essentials, we have some animated exhausts as well. So you can
neat.
actually, your ships will actually look like they move. So just use our layering system to put them underneath the engines. And then, you can see that they look pretty good.
So speaking of animation, that's a big hot topic for Fantasy Grounds. It's kind of new for that platform. So how would you do that with the with this particular platform? You don't have to show it, but just
yeah, of course. So with your exports, we have a MP4 export. So if we go to video here, right now MP4 and GIF are what we support, but we'll be bringing in WebM later this year.
Okay.
So if we just want to say, select this bit here as an example, set it as a 5-second video, and just hit start. It'll record that, and then we just give it a second. And we end up with a video of our little animation here, which is going to take VLC a second to load up. So there we have an MP4 of our animation going here.
Nice.
So there are tools that you can use to convert that into WebM and then bring that into Fantasy Grounds.
Yep. So if you guys are using Fantasy Grounds, they do have a blank audio channel for MP4s. So even if there's no sound, you still have to remove that channel if you're going to use like Shutter Encoder or some other Handbrake or whatever. So that way it works in Fantasy Grounds, because if you leave the sound channel, it's not going to work.
Oh, very helpful. Great, so let's chuck them underneath the floor there with our layering system.
I like it.
So I'll show that off. So we have our layer stack here that shows everything that we've placed. So our software uses a terrain layer and an object layer. So terrain layer is usually things that are underneath the grid, and object layer is things that are above the grid. And you can see we can hover it, it'll point to where it is, you can click on it, select it, etc.
Now, is there any way to... Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, now you go.
I was going to ask you, is there any way to flatten the object layer? So instead of having 8 variations, you'd have 1?
Oh, so instead of like all these different objects, it just shrinks it to a single image?
Yeah.
So there's no way in software to do it with just like a single button. What we typically recommend is do a UVTT export and then do a UVTT import to bring it back in.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, since we've got our... I'll actually make a split here. So
that kind of answers the question. You can import your own assets.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a quick import here, which we can use. So we can just say, to bring in that river map that we made before, for example.
Yep.
Just bring it in, rotate scale. Anything you import is treated exactly the same as our assets.
Nice.
So there's no difference between what you can do with your assets and what you can do with ours. But what I'll do here is, so we'll export this section as a UVTT map. The toolkit uses 256 pixels for its...
Yeah, that sounds
default.
right.
So yeah, you do get print quality assets with everything that you get with Arkenforge.
Cool.
So now we've got that, and can we just drag and drop it in? Yes, we can. There we go.
Cool.
So now we have our UVTT here with our barriers. So yeah, if we wanted to, we can now just delete that part of the ship, chuck that one there in. Obviously, the background doesn't quite line up, but you can hide the background from exports and whatnot.
Yep.
But that's a pretty good approximation, I'd say.
So it's kind of neat that, because then you can just duplicate it like if you had more than one deck.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you could just kind of, I mean, you could do it another way, I'm sure, but that would be more ideal, I think, to have them. And then do it side by side, and you can kind of have like a cutaway view.
Yeah, exactly. So you can just duplicate. So you've got 3 there, for example.
Pretty cool.
What you can do as well with the software is, if I just undo all this, bring them back. So we can select all our things here and group them. And then if we head to customize and grouped, we can save it as a group preset. So we'll call this ship deck. And so now when I go into my map building here, I have my ship deck asset, and I can just place that down, and it'll place down the individual objects. So yeah, you can build your decks, you can have entire ships that are like thousands of assets, save that as a group, and then you can just place it into any map that you like, which is very handy.
So I'm thinking about doing another Mapper's Delight this year, but I think what I'm going to do is invite people like yourself that are actually doing like these virtual software packages instead of the traditional artists. I mean, I wouldn't mind having some asset builders on there, but when I did the first 3, they were great, but I kind of have to give it a break, like, because you just pretty soon it gets to the point where it's like the same, 20 people or whatever. So I think might be nice or prudent to have you and maybe a couple others together, and not necessarily a comparison, but like a kind of like these are your options, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that sounds real fun.
Yeah, and it would be good for you to meet your peers, competition, and the idea is to bring you guys together and inspire each other, not necessarily to compete.
No, of course.
Because that already happens naturally. So
yeah, that's right. We don't have competition. We have friends.
Exactly.
That's what we say. Yeah.
The door looks good.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice door. Actually, we'll go flip it.
Yep.
It's the other way.
The outdoor lights. Yep.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense, I reckon.
Do you have any little? I know it's a little early in the game, but do you have a couple tokens to throw in there, like some aliens or?
I'll see. We have some third-party ones, I think.
Yeah.
Let's go see if I have them installed. I think Planet Hoppers have some. Yes.
Cool.
This is one of our third-party creators called Planet Hoppers.
Mm-hmm.
So they do have some tokens.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you are using Arkenforge as a VTT, you can essentially turn any token into a note, and then you can do things like add your stat blocks and whatnot to them. And do all
cool.
that sort of thing. Yeah.
So you just like if you have PDFs, just copy and paste the data. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Later in this year, we're planning on having proper PDF support, so you'll be able to actually bring in a PDF and use it.
Nice.
But yeah, that doesn't affect the mapping side too much at this point. But yeah, alien tokens, if you jump in our third-party creators or if you import your own, are definitely possible to do. Yeah. Down. A little console at the back. Go with one that's not destroyed. It's probably for this.
Engine room.
Yeah, have a little engine room there at the back. Probably want to chuck a wall in between.
Yep. And maybe those aliens are like test subjects or something.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Sold. Alrighty.
Or they could be refugees.
Yeah, maybe. Alrighty.
No, I kind of like the feel of this platform because it kind of gives me that nostalgic feel of kind of like playing with Legos. You know what I mean? Like kind of like I don't know if you played, like little Star Wars figurines and that sort of thing. Kind of brings that back a little. And that's probably one of the reasons I like Virtual Tabletop, because the models themselves are pretty darn expensive to actually collect. So this really saves a lot of money in the long run, especially if you're a Warhammer person.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sure that's.
Yeah, I tried getting into Warhammer, and I know that pain. It's a lot.
So, GM Daddy Cat, since you're our guest, would you have any questions while we're building here?
No, I'm just enjoying watching. It's it's really cool.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Oh, this will be good. Please load in.
I really like the example with sci-fi because I'm working on Flash Gordon and Star Wars, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I like it because there's too much fantasy already. It's good to have some variety.
Absolutely. So I'll show off here is. Chuck on a little float on this guy. As they're suspended.
So he's moving a little bit?
Yeah, so
kind of neat.
Anything you import in and all of our assets, we have a list of effects here, and we're always adding more with every update. So we're just going to give these guys a little float, and I reckon a little bit of a rotation as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you get that guy to rotate?
Yeah. So we can do that. And then we can add some extra animation on top. So let's say...
maybe like a cloud or something. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like a stasis field, like it's holding them in place or something.
Yeah, that's what we were after. We'll check that there. Bring the opacity down a little bit.
Yes. There you go. That looks primo.
Yeah.
It's amazing what that little opacity does for you.
No, absolutely. And yeah, so that cloud's like already got a rotation effect built in and whatnot. So.
Nice.
Yeah, so we've got our two little prisoners here. Not doing the thing. Make your chair a little bigger.
It's kind of neat. It kind of makes you want to play. I guess that's the whole idea, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to play.
Like, yeah, if you were playing like a Mothership game or something and you sat down and your DM had this ready for you, you'd be very keen, I reckon, to jump in and play it.
I'd really like to see people playing it at a table. Do you guys film any of that ever? I know it's like do a split screen, like have the, you know, the actual VTT and then have the players on another camera or something.
Oh yeah, so we've done a couple of like convention games here in Australia. So we've got them. I think they're available on our website, but I can provide a link to that.
Sure.
Yeah.
A weapon system or sensors?
That one's sensors. So we do have a lot of turrets that we can use as well. Yeah, check you down there. Up the top, that one. Okay. If we go weapons, there's all our cannons and whatnot. Oh yeah, so you can also adjust pivot points. So you can see this one here we have on our pivot. So as we rotate that, it's actually going to rotate around its proper axis there. So
what's neat is you can animate those, right, to sway back and forth a little.
Yeah, so right now we can animate it to rotate all the way. We don't have like a back and forth rotate, but that is definitely on our list of animations to add in.
Cool.
Yeah.
Or maybe even pulse, because it would probably look like it, you know, like it released energy. You know how they kind of swell.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Just a slight pulse.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, there you go.
Move that amount down a bit. About on time BLS. Yeah, that works pretty well.
Yeah.
Put you underneath the ship.
It gives you that, yeah, like it's shooting pulse cannons.
Yeah, exactly.
That works.
Yeah, I like that. Nifty. Yeah, we'll just throw a couple of other things into the space just so it's not so empty.
Do you have an effect that would kind of give you the impression the ship is moving, other than the fire? Kind of like a mist or something that comes off that, you know, like how it kind of breaks space or whatever, and it has like
oh yeah, I know what you mean. I think we have something similar. So what I'll do first off is we will
maybe a mist or water or something.
The first thing we'll do is tile scroll the background.
Now that's nice.
Yes, that is nifty.
And do the same with the movement. So we start with that, and then I don't think we have a mist breaking, but we have one in one of our other packs, which is a water breaking. So we can use that for sure.
Yeah, just make it really light so it's barely.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah. Cool. We can also tint them so they're
slightly, yeah.
They're matching the background color a bit.
Yep. It's almost like exhaust or something, you know, like.
Yeah. Yeah, if we check them like down there, maybe.
Yeah, that's perfect.
We get that nice subtle effect.
Yep. That's cool. And how about the light inside the, you know, just a static light inside, or maybe a pulsing light, because of maybe it's emergency or battle stations, or, you know.
Oh, I got you. So what we'll do is, this will probably be the best way to do it. Let's check down you. We'll use 2 lights for this one.
Yeah.
We'll give it a 90-degree field of view. Make it red. Have one facing the other way.
Nice.
And then take both of them, but hopefully try and get them to line up. Yeah, Yeah,
close enough. Good. Yeah, that looks really neat.
Nice. And then yeah, if we go to nighttime, that'll really.
Yeah, that's cool. Battle stations.
Sweet. So we'll get this ready for the Fantasy Grounds export. So we'll make our doors toggleable for starters. And then, yeah, those lights will do their thing. We can see the walls are clearly already blocking stuff. But if we want to, say, toggle our door off, the light will go through. Toggle that back on. But we'll have that door open and the other one closed, just so we can show that off. And so what we'll do, export, select our area, which is roughly that. And now so do an FGU and a UVTT export just to show the difference.
Yep.
So if you're using Arkenforge Assets, we'd recommend doing the Fantasy Grounds Unity export, just because the way that they process UVTTs doesn't quite mesh well with our software. Okay. I'll export these in and show you what I mean. So, oops, I could actually put them in the folder. It helps.
So this is in case you're new to Fantasy Grounds, this is just the flat core RPG, basically the basis for Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah, pretty much.
And if you're going to build map packs, it's probably the best area to build it in, because then it's not attached to any specific rule set.
No. So I don't think the field of view comes in with Fantasy Grounds, but that's okay.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we get our nice ship with our red lights and whatnot, and we can move them around as needed.
Yep.
You can see, as we did in Arkenforge, we've tried to make, with the Fantasy Grounds export, everything come across as same as possible. So our door here is toggleable but open. This one here is toggleable but closed. So all that you've built in is going to stay the same.
Yep. Now it's not going to support it won't support the bullseye effect, but it will do the whole light.
Yeah, so you can do bullseye effects in different ways if you put in, say, like a light with the full 360-degree field of view, but you just put barriers on to sort of constrain it.
Yep.
So you can do like that sort of thing for it. But yeah, Fantasy Grounds doesn't currently support that. Yep. So we can only obviously do what Fantasy Grounds supports at this point.
Yep.
But yeah, so we got that. But if we bring in the UVTT version, so if we head to, if I remember right, that is...
Go to images, yep.
Yes, and import.
Yep.
And then probably need to rename it, but we'll see how we go. Yeah, we'll need to rename it to something different. Spaceship 2.
Yep. There we go.
So, yeah. So for the most part, the barriers stay the same, but with our... I'll show you the difference between the barriers between these two images. We've got you and how do I open Spaceship 1 images? Go. Right, so this one here, if we open it, you can see that our doors are these rectangles.
Yep.
But with the UVTT import, because with most other platforms, UVTT only supports barriers that are like flat. So when Fantasy Grounds does its UVTT import, it turns them into rectangles.
Got it.
But because it's turning each of the door sections into a rectangle, you end up with a weird amalgamation of things.
And then the other stuff is terrain instead of a occluder or something else.
Yeah, I think it's bringing it in as terrain by the look of it. But that could just be an issue with our UVTT.
So on those curves, if you double click on one of the curves on any of those nodes, and then you go to simplify occluders, it's a down arrow in the tool. Down below a little bit further. Right there.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
So you can take out some of those so you don't need 50 gazillion of them.
Yeah, a lot of ours are definitely going to have lots of occluders so you can... Oh, that one didn't quite simplify how we want. But that's
But I mean, that's how you can help yourself in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so previously we turn all of our straight line barriers that are toggleable into rectangles with our FGU export automatically. So you don't need to worry about Fantasy Grounds interpreting things non-ideally.
Yeah, the other one's definitely superior to this.
And
that's the one you developed recently, right? The Fantasy Grounds conversion part?
Yeah, that's right. So we supported it right after it first came out. I think we were the first ones to bring in that integration with it. And then, we've been working on updating it over time as well. So we recently, with our last big public update, did our barrier upgrade, so you can have your toggleable doors and windows and that sort of thing. So that all comes across natively now. And then our next update, we will hopefully be looking at WebM, so you can bring in your WebMs with all your barriers and whatnot built in already.
Yeah, so I'm glad you did develop that, because a standard UVT import isn't really quite cutting it.
Not from our platform. If you're doing it from something, say Dungeon Draft or Dungeon Fog, where they don't have those like rectangular barriers for their doors and windows and stuff, it works reasonably well. But with our platform, just because of the way our barriers work, it's not the perfect solution for it. But we get around that by giving you a native export. So
great.
Yeah. File these down a bit just so your game runs a bit smoother.
So that adds a lot more usability and validity for this platform to use outside of Fantasy Grounds. So
yeah, exactly. And our longer term plans are to let you do, say, the notes in our game as well. So build notes in Arkenforge and export them into Fantasy Grounds. So we're working towards a full Fantasy Grounds module export rather than just the one-off map. So the goal is, long term, you can build everything you need in Arkenforge and then export to Fantasy Grounds along with all the other platforms that we support.
Cool.
Yeah. Should be good fun. Yes, that's a couple of neat maps that we've made there. If anyone else has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Daddy Cat, you got any? I got a few.
No, I don't have any questions. I was just looking over the licensing for map creation and sales. Like, I really love that it's Creative Commons 4.0, just attribution license.
Yep, that's nice.
Yeah, definitely. So anything that you make with Arkenforge, you can use commercially, and we have a commercial use license on our website. You just need to do attribution if you're selling stuff. Later on, we're going to be looking at more enterprise versions where you can